You know, in this series, I've sat here multiple times saying if X, Y, and Z can go in our favour, we could be in for the year of our dreams. Well, this year that I'm about to tell you about is that year. And then some. We have two absolutely massive happenings going on over on stream right about now. So join us over there after you've caught up over here, because believe me, you're not going to want to miss this. VODs are on the second channel, linked in the description. You know the drill, we move. So we came into season 15 of Building a Nation with Sirens of Malta off the back of somewhat of a down year by our own standards, but still full of hope, with the new reshuffling of the qualification places meaning that we'd start slightly higher up, and so would some of our Maltese friends, giving us a chance, if things could go right, of a potentially monster season. Despite all the other activities that you're going to learn about throughout the rest of this video, there's actually been a fair amount of activity in the transfer market this year as well, with us hoovering up what I would consider to be some genuinely excellent talents for the future. But before we get to that, there is one small out that I think we just quickly need to discuss before we jump in, and that is Damien Toon Caro, who left the club to join Damak over in, I believe, Saudi for £3.6 million. Pretty much he was sort of slipping down the pecking order at the club. He wasn't playing a lot and he was starting to get on our back about it. I feel like if we'd held on a little bit, we probably could have got a bit more money, such as the way the transfer system works in FM, especially this year. But he's earning £115,000 a week. He wasn't going to get that at Sirens when our highest paid player is on like 35. But now let's talk about some of the ins, because there is a good chunk of players this year that I'm very, very pleased with that might actually have long-term futures both with us and maybe could be the sort of guys that become Haris Zivkovic type players from the last save in the loan farm. The first of those to join was Itchik Biton, who came from Hapoel Petah Tikva over in Israel. Now, he's 19 now, but he did join us when he was 18. Now, for some reason, we've noticed that certain scout reports for loan players when they're at certain clubs, especially Sweetie, seem to go missing. But I can tell you now, when we signed him, he was 2-star, 5-star, which is very, very good. For £500,000, we felt that was a really good move for us, especially as he was able to go into the loan farm at Sweetie United. And that is a huge sort of statement of where we could be going with these sort of loan players that we could be potentially getting out. Hasn't actually played that much this season for them, though, and that does make me worried that he might end up coming back this summer, but I still think we can find him another loan move, hopefully, because I think there's a great talent here. And in that same boat, we have Joseph Pedraza, who came in for £925,000 from Atletico Nacional. Same problem with the star ratings, unfortunately, but he went on loan to Hamron, and you can see he's a fantastic footballer. One of those guys that's all attributes, pure vibes, but doesn't have the potential ceiling. But it means you can hoover these kind of guys up, and they usually do pretty good business. And you can see he has done pretty good business this season with 17 goals for Hamron, despite having a long-term injury at one point as well. Another player that we're extremely proud of and pleased with is Cyprian Rediuncic, and I'm sorry if I've said his name incorrectly. £2.6 million from Farrell Costanza. He's only 17 years old, but he's gone out on loan to Goodyear, I believe, in the second half of this season, and already has a Romania cap. And you'll note that these players I'm bringing in, these guys are all relatively good potential-wise from what we can tell, decent CA, but they've all found loans to major sides in Malta, and I think that really shows the strength that we're building in the other teams. We also dropped £1 million on Ramiro Rojas, who joins us from Envigado for £1 million. It's not a bad player. He was mostly just supposed to be a sort of playmaker in that midfield. He's done well for us this season, although I've been a little bit unimpressed with certain behavioural things. He constantly complains. He's not been fantastic, despite being a model citizen, ironically. He's been quite a problem child, and I'm actually wondering if he's the sort of guy that could leave this summer were the right money to be there, given we've got other players coming through. And it was a similar story with Carlos Rios, who we brought in as a sort of backup, given the fact that we were losing Gonzalo Diaz this summer. He'd gone on a free transfer, unfortunately. It's just one of those things. But for £950,000, again, attribute-wise, for the 27-year-old Colombian international, we figured he was just a nice player to have around the squad, even if he is on quite large money. He's another one we may look to move on this summer, just to, ironically, youngen up the squad a little bit and get some of those slightly larger wages off the bill, given that we've got a lot of players joining us soon. One player I am going to show you that hasn't actually joined us yet, but I'll show you at the end, is I think could be a game changer in the future. Next, we spent £4.6 million on Fernando Guzman. Now, I'm not sure if this is the right move, because it seems like his potential ceiling isn't really there, but he has gone on loan to Hibernians, which is at least something. Attribute-wise, I think he's very good, and it might just be that our scouts are miscalculating, or the coaches are misjudging him a little bit, or he might just be one of those guys that doesn't have the highest PA, but his CA is really decent, and if he can develop a little bit more, I'd still be happy, but 4.6 is a lot to drop on a guy with this kind of setup, but attributes, I think he's lovely. Slightly better bargain, though, is Derek Osei, £205,000 from Accra Lions. I think he's solid. He actually has a higher potential ceiling, it would seem, than our other chap there. He'll also be a homegrown player for the future. Haven't been able to find him alone, but I wonder if he's one of these guys that might just get better and better and might end up just getting into our team eventually, because that advanced playmaker role, I'm liking what I'm seeing out of him, and I wonder if he actually could be the future of that position, given that he already has good passing and vision. Then we also dropped 3.6 million, and forgive me, Poles, for my horrendous pronunciation of this guy's name, because this is a really tough one for me. Zbigniew Misic. I'm sure that's incorrect, but I'm doing my best. Do let me know how to say that properly, because I want to get his name right. It's one of the more complicated ones. But yeah, £3.6 million, gone out on loan to Birkirkara. We just liked his pure attributes. Still only 19 years old, can jump a little bit. He's reasonable. Maybe overpaid a little bit, though. And speaking of dropping large money, we did on Martin Milo, £4.5 million for the Rosario central attacking midfielder, which is ironically exactly what he is. And yeah, reasonable player. 4.5 might be a lot, but again, we saw potential. And, you know, you can generally speaking with the Argentinian ones get a little bit more like, they're likely to be slightly better. Maybe. Not absolutely not true at all, but you just never know with him. And we liked his attributes, so we've hoovered up a few of these guys. Struggled to find these guys loans. I think that these guys in the summer, though, may well find themselves loans, except, of course, for the fact that he's got a twisted ankle, but that's fine. And it was a similar story from Alejandro Bogoa, who we put £5.25 million, because we are still looking at the future. As much as we like Jibril Fall, he's 6 years older than Alejandro, so to have a good backup guy that can maybe come in occasionally, do a little bit for us, and maybe have a bit of high potential, and he has one eccentricity, which on a goalkeeper, my God, I adore. So we like this lad, and hopefully he can develop into a good player or find a loan. A transfer I'm especially proud of as well is Mateus from Chelsea for £375,000. What were Chelsea smoking when they let us have him for under 500 grand? Like, he's got really nice defensive attributes, like basic stuff, but 19 years old, really lovely physicals, 6'4", does like a little bit of the aggression and the bravery perhaps, but for that kind of price, it was an absolute no-brainer, and he's gone on loan to Sweetie as well. It's the dream. And lastly, right at the very end of the window, we picked up a duo from Sporting who were sort of just on the bubble, and we figured they could do a job for other Maltese sides because they had good attributes. Rui Teixeira was the first of those. £500,000, reasonable player based on his attributes, and he went on loan to Tarshin Rainbows. It's the dream. And the more expensive of the two was Nathan Laffin for £2.2 million. But again, I feel like these are reasonably good, talented players that we've managed to get for relatively cheap money, particularly he's only 18 and has fantastic attributes. I still think if we could get him into the loan farm, he could become a really, really useful player. And you'll note that a lot of the guys I've showed you have been guys for the loan farm this year, and a lot of them actually have those loans. And I feel like a lot of these new guys are going to get those loans over the course of this summer, because our loan farm has reached a level that I've never seen before. Just you wait till I tell you the number later on. So I promised there was one more guy that we'd signed up that hasn't actually joined us yet. There's a few others, but I'll save those guys to show you for next season, because we found a couple of excellent players. But there's one guy that I have to show you, because I believe he is the long-term linchpin of our entire defense. And this is he. This is Carlos Vieira. He was actually found with a recruitment focus, no less. We were using the INL recruitment focuses. We had them as a sort of a background thing to hoover up any players that we might miss. Most of the time, we just use them to find new clubs to get team reports on. But this guy came through, and over a period of 2 or 3 months of just scouting, he never wavered from being this kind of level of potential. And in fact, it went up at one point from that, you know, he got the extra little half star there. We're signing him for £3 million. I mean, he's only 17. He joins us in January. Heading of 11, and he's only 17, so that can improve. Tackling of 14 is unlikely to go up by much, but that's okay. Positioning's a little on the low side, but luckily marking and positioning are the easiest thing to improve on defenders in FM. We could get that up to 15 within about 3 seasons, I would have thought. 14 jumping reach, despite only being 6 foot. Got 13 pace and acceleration, good on both feet. Model citizen personality, and high consistency as well. No adaptability issues. In fact, he's got good adaptability. No big game issues. He's pretty much the perfect player. If he has potential anywhere in the region that the game thinks he does, this guy really could be the absolute monster. Not that we've needed, because our defense is absolutely stunning, but I think he could be the guy that really takes us to the next level by the time he's like 22, 23. He could be a world-class guy. I'm talking like winning that like goal 50 kind of award type of thing. Point being, I want to show him off because I think he's unbelievable. So before we swing into lots of other stuff that we want to talk about today, I'm actually going to talk about some stuff with the loan farm now, not to do with the actual players in the loan farm, because that would spoil some stuff, so we'll swing back round to that later. But there's a couple of little updates I've got that again might help you guys with some loan farm stuff. I don't know. So the first of which is I accidentally offered out a load of players for loans for the next season around this time of the year. Actually, I think it was the 28th of May last year. I think it was purely accidental. I was clicking the wrong button. And we got a lot of loan bids for our players before the loan window or the window at all had even opened. And normally I find that clubs are particularly inactive as far as loans before the windows are open. In fact, most of the time you can't even offer it. So what I would say is, within a week of your window opening, like sort of 3 or 4 days beforehand, try offering out your players for loan then, even though the window's shut. And I've noticed that there has definitely been an uptick in the number of loans I was able to get in that period. Might be apocryphal, but it's worth always giving it a go, because you never know. Every little helps, right? And the other thing is, we are truly metagaming on an entirely different level with this next interesting. So take this with a pinch of salt whether this is going to help you or not. So this is Anton Stack. He's one of many, but he's an example of that. So what we decided to try and do is, in the game, there is a tendency that can exist on managers, which is uses loans market, or uses loan market, right? It's quite rare. Very few managers actually have it. But if you can find guys that have that tendency, sign them up as like under 23s or under 19 coaches, provided they're willing to do so, but they want to be a manager. And we've noticed, the idea was basically we bring them in as coaches, train them up a little bit, and ideally get them poached by other Maltese sides to then become their managers, so we can then use the loan market thingy that they've got the tendency for to hopefully give them some more loans. How well that's going to work, I don't know. But we brought a couple of the guys in, and we're actually, I say we, someone from chat, Slugs, is working on an app that will actually allow you to find these tendencies, because it's not something you can search for in the game, even though it's literally a thing that appears on the manager's profile. It's a bit silly, but we're finding a way around that for later, so more on that in a future video. But for the time being, bringing these guys in, which we did a load of them, we thought, oh, maybe we'll get one poached and the rest of the safe. Two of them that were coaches at our club over the past year, and they've only been here a year, have already left for other Maltese sides in our league. One's at Gaziri United in the second tier, and one is at Floriana, who are in the top flight but have just been relegated. So already two of these guys have left us and now have this tendency and are in the Maltese managerial pool now, which is going to be interesting to see how that pans out over the future as to whether it actually does make any difference. But we've basically stacked our club with these guys as under 19s and under 23 coaches just to see what will happen in the future. So I'll update you that in the future, but I just wanted to share that with you because why not try? We're trying everything here. Our plans are measured in centuries. And don't worry, we've still got a smattering of actual good coaches for our under 19s and under 23s as well. So tactically, nothing has changed. And what that led us to, as you remember last year, I said that we were in the Club World Cup. Now, of course, we got in it the same way Red Bull Salzburg did in real life. It still just came out of nowhere for us, but it went kind of interestingly. Now, due to the fact that it was so long ago, unfortunately, we don't have the game cache stuff for it, even from my mid-season save, sadly. But you can see we were in a group with Barcelona, River Plate, and Mamelodi Sundowns, and we won the group. We managed to beat River Plate 4-0, Mamelodi Sundowns 7-0, and got a 1-1 draw with Barcelona, where we were massively the better side to win our group. In the second round, things got even better as we beat Dortmund by 3-2 to progress. In the quarterfinal, it got even better as we beat PSG in the quarterfinals to reach the semi-finals, and we're playing some fabulous football too, deserving these wins. In the semis, we then faced Feyenoord and hammered them 4-1 to set up a final appearance against Manchester City. We reached the Club World Cup final. It's meaningless as far as coefficient goes, because you don't get any, obviously, and you get a little bit of money, but it's just nice to play there. And sadly, we lost the Club World Cup final 2-1. The thing is, we were winning until like the 75th minute, and we were massively the better side. And it was a full-strength City side. This wasn't like a weakened squad by any means. They still had their full-strength side out there, and unfortunately just got a couple of lucky deflected goals. And we were so close to winning the Club World Cup whilst being a team that probably least deserved to be in it. But hey, things just go like that sometimes. But it gave us hope as to what we could actually do this season in Europe. And speaking of Europe, not Europe, the league, where we won it by 19 points, less than last season, and did actually lose a game this year. You'll see that Sweetie managed to sneak into second again, Hamrun, Hibernian, and Gudja in there as well. Only 4 points separating the rest of those teams, and then a 14-point gap back to sixth. There very much is a top one, then a second through fifth, and then everybody else, basically. And in a way, right now, with the way the save is, that's exactly what we need. We need these guys to just be getting better and better and better so they can keep doing better in Europe. And eventually, once we get a sixth spot, then we can start funneling players to that sixth team, whoever that becomes. It's usually how these saves tend to go. Nashar and Floriana, unfortunately, take the drop, with Melita yet again surviving like the barnacle of the Maltese Premier League that they have been for several seasons. I think they've come 12th every single year. And in the second tier, Luta and Mostar return to the top flight. It's a shame that Gaziri United didn't actually come up, because they are being managed by one of the loan farm tendency guys that we managed to get out earlier. We've got a managerial loan farm now. It's brilliant. But yeah, that would have been good if they'd come up, because I feel like they would have taken a crap load of loans. But I'm hoping next year, with that huge goal difference since he took over, I think they could be absolutely they've been flying ever since he took over the club. I think next year they're a shoe-in for promotion, especially if they take loads of our loans. After our successes in the Club World Cup, we were feeling pretty confident about our chances in the Champions League, and we only got to start in the playoff round this year, so just one tie in the way of us getting to the groups. And that was against Malta. A 2-1 victory in Norway gave us a relatively nice lead to take back home, which we then followed up with an absolute hammering with Tara, Perez, and Carlos Rios doing the business for us. Vida was absolutely world-class. Yet again, this man he does not know when to stop. He will not hand over the reins to Evtim Krastev because he keeps putting up the numbers. But that was an easy one, sailed us through to the Champions League group stage. And we felt, this is a year that we've got to be looking at top 8, given how well we played in the Club World Cup. Some of the teams we've faced definitely had played weaker squads, but we still gave City a run for themselves in that final, and that was a full-strength team. And we got off to the perfect fantastic start. A 3-1 victory over Borussia Mönchengladbach, 2 goals from Ramiro Rojas, 1 for Seydou Kwasi-Awuah, and nearly 5 XG created in this game. We were absolutely dominant. Crazy that we didn't win this game by more, but it was a great result for us and exactly what we needed to get going. And then this happened. We were brought right back down to earth by losing 4-1 at Stamford Bridge. But you'll note that they managed to score 5 shots on target, 4 goals, and 1.14 XG. How on earth we lost this game, I will never. The fact that it was 4-1 with these stats was crazy, and that will happen sometimes. Vida yet again was the man of the match despite us losing 4-1. That should tell you everything. 2 injuries in this game as well really did not help us. It was utterly mad. One of those games where you just sat there going, we're creating everything, we're missing everything, and Chelsea are just scoring every chance they get, basically. It is what it is, but it was really good to see us put that kind of statistical performance down in such a tough game, even if the result wasn't quite there. Unfortunately, the luck then took an even worse turn, which was at home against Atletico. Again, we were the better side in this game, took the lead through Juan Carlos Perez in the 68th minute, and then, in the 94th minute of the match, a penalty was awarded for a perfectly clean tackle, which then saw Kadri get a second yellow card as well, and then Xavi Simons scored the penalty for Atletico. That was their only shot on target of the game, and it was in the 94th minute from a penalty that wasn't a penalty. We were livid with this one, because we really should have been on 3 wins out of 3 at this point, and we're just wondering what the hell we're supposed to do. Well, we did what we did best, and that was get down there and put up another fantastic performance. 4-1 victory against one of the weaker sides, admittedly, in Olympiacos. We actually scored all the goals in this one. Perez with a hat-trick, Vida with 2 more assists. You see what I mean about the numbers? He can't be stopped. Great result. Back to winning ways. And we were then immediately brought back down to earth again. Battered Bayern Munich away from home. Perez gave us the lead. They once again scored. That was their first chance of the game. Their only shot up to that point. I think about 65 minutes into this game, they had 1 shot and it was their goal. Yet again, created chances, couldn't put them away, and got punished for it with the only opportunity they really had in the entire match. Well, no, they had 1 chance later on, I think. Fall did make quite a big save in like the 90. We could have lost this one, basically. There are only 2 shots on target. It is what it is, though. But you can see every single game so far this season in Champions League, we've been at least the better side, if not by far the better side, and just hadn't got the luck we deserve sometimes. And that's okay. I'd much rather be playing well and maybe not always getting lucky than the other way around. But then we did get a little bit of luck of our own as we faced a relatively strong Benfica side. Luckily, Arda Güler was sent off after 10 minutes for Benfica, and after that we just blew through them. Payas with a goal, Padilla, 2 for Camgren Lend, and 1 for Andy Mikalev. Now, I have to preface this with, basically, we ran out of places on the bench because of some injuries that had occurred to the squad, as you would have seen earlier. And so we literally had a youth player called Andy Mikalev on the bench, threw him on up top, and he actually scored a goal for us in the 91st minute. What a guy. Love to see it for him. Yeah, no, I know what you mean, Gorabash. Trust me, if you saw our results for the Champions League this season, you'd understand. So against Bayern, oh, hang on, Andy Mikalev. Andy Mikalev! Next up, it was away to Shakhtar. Didn't play amazingly in this game, but luckily we were actually able to score set-piece goals finally. So Mateus Payas bailed us out again. 3-0 victory, another good win, feeling very good. We knew that 1 more win would guarantee us top 8. And that's exactly what we got. An absolute domination of Red Bull Salzburg. Perez and Awuah, yet again, the strike force just combining for days. Unfortunately, though, Vida got injured in this game, and after that, that was the last appearance he would make for us this season. It was a torn knee ligament, which would see him miss 4 months. So unfortunately, after having, again, one of the best seasons of his career, he would miss the rest of the year pretty much. But it didn't matter too much, as we did manage to come 6th in the group in the end. 17 points, 22 goals scored, and frankly, I think there's an argument to be made that we probably could have won every single game here. So it definitely bodes well as to what we could do against big sides in Europe in the future. But all that meant that we'd get a bye into the round of 16 of the Champions League, and our result and our reward for that would be to place 23rd place Real Sociedad in the round of 16. A great chance for us to get to a quarter-final for only the 2nd time in the club's history. And despite playing really well away from home, hey, look at that! They scored with their only shot on target. There's only so much we can do defensively, and it's not even a case that the goalkeeper can be at fault for this. They are just incredible finishes when they do. We literally limit them to nothing, but the moment they get 1 chance, it's basically a guaranteed goal. We didn't do enough in this game ourselves. If our strikers aren't firing, we're just not going to win. It's a shame, but there you go. Luckily in the home game, ironically, Real Sociedad actually played better, but it wasn't enough as Juan Carlos Perez and, of course, Camgren Lend gave us a 3-0 victory, 4-1, and through to the quarter-finals, where we got drawn against Manchester City. Because there was I think we had a better chance of drawing pretty much every other team that was kind of good, but no, we still got Manchester City. So a tough one and a rematch for the Club World Cup final. And we travelled to Manchester and lost 3-2, which is all we really wanted, was to stay in the tie. We actually took the lead in this one, but we weren't really deserving of them. Badini and Erling Haaland got some goals off of our mistakes. Krasdev had an absolute crapper. Perez got another one for us in the 90th minute. We thought we'd bailed out a draw, but then immediately from the kickoff, Genk Ismaili managed to make it 3-2 to City. But we were all right with that. We figured there's still a chance with that. And boy, was there. Sirens 4, Manchester City 0. We finally got the result that had sort of been coming all season. An absolute hammering of them. Now, XG-wise, we were the better side, but we didn't deserve to win by as much as that. Paez, Awua, Watara, and Kamga and Len with a late-headed goal. We just played the substitutes in this game really, really well. Awua had come off the bench. Within a minute, he'd scored. Kamga got his headed goal off of a Lahovi cross. They were both substitutes as well. We just played it perfectly, I think, and we got the result that we needed, and we get to the Champions League semis for the first time ever in this save, and we'd face Juventus, a team who are emphatically nowhere near as good as Manchester City. As the first leg proved, a 2-2 draw in Turin. We took the lead through Perez again, who's just been sensational this season. They did get back into it through Jesus Grau. Pierre Kamga and Len gave us the lead with another headed goal off a Lahovi cross, and we thought we'd actually won it, but then Jeff Hendrick, otherwise known as Endrick, did get the late one for Juventus to bail them out a little bit. But a 2-2 draw, going back home to Malta, basically we were 90 minutes away and one win from a Champions League final, and that's exactly what we got. Sirens 3, Juve 1, Perez with 2 more, Quasio with another one. It was just brilliant. We deserved the win on the night easily and got it, and that means that we will be playing in a Champions League final today live over on stream right now. In fact, probably not right now as you're watching this because we've got something else to do first, but nevertheless, that's what we're going to be doing. I'll be suited up, our first ever champion. We've never even reached the semis before, and now we've gone all the way to the final. We'll play Manchester United. It was between them and Real Madrid, and looking at squads pound for pound, Real Madrid's squad is much better than Manchester United. I still suspect that we're going to get absolutely destroyed, but it's just nice to be there, and it shows what we could really do on our year, and this year has very much been our year. So that's what's coming up over on stream, but we've got other things to discuss before then, so do not worry, because there's the little matter of the other Maltese sides. Now, all the work that we've done this season is brilliant, but unless you get help, it's still not going to matter that much. It's still going to matter a bit, because lots of points are definitely awarded for this, and lots of money as well. But this was the year, once again, that we had 5 teams in Europe, but with the reshuffling, it meant there was a much better chance of us getting at least 2 more teams with us in group stages of various competitions. First up were Birkirkara in the second round of the Conference League qualifiers. They would face off against AEL Limassol of Cyprus. Managed to scrape through on penalties in the end, but it was some coefficient points. This then set up a tie with Brann of Norway, and incredibly, they managed to win home and away against the Norwegian side to reach the playoff round. And all we needed was finally a little bit of luck of the draw, and we actually got it as they'd face FK Sarajevo, managed to get the result, both home and away wins for them to see them sail through in the end, 5-1 on aggregate and into the group stage of the Conference League for the first time in their history. And boy golly, it felt good. We could really see the progress happening, admittedly with some slightly more favourable draws. About damn time. So next up we had Goodyear United, who'd be entering the Europa League qualifiers in the second round for the first time in their history. And despite losing 3-2 in Sarajevo against FK Sarajevo, they won the second leg 5-0 to fly through to the third round of qualifying. Unfortunately, that all proved too much for them against Slavia Prague as they went out by 7-4, but that still dropped them into the playoff round, and we knew they'd have a great chance there if they could get the right draw, which they very much did against FC Honka of Finland. A 2-1 victory and a 1-0 victory saw them progress to the group stage of the Conference League. That's 2 down, 2 to go. And remember, the 2 to go had a much better chance on actually qualifying for something. Next up, though, we had Hamrun, who, due to the reshuffling and us being 12th now, were guaranteed a group stage spot anyway, as they would enter the Europa League playoff round against Fenerbahce. It would just decide which one it was. They drew both home and away against the Turkish side, but were knocked out on penalties in the end, which, ironically, I would say is probably the better result for us, especially as they still got some coefficient points along the way. So they drop in to the Conference League group as well. And that just left one. Sweetie United, easily the strongest side outside of us now, and they went into the Champions League second qualifying round. Always going to be tough, and it proved to be exactly that as they went out 3-1 to Dynamo Kiev, but they stayed pretty close in both games and were surprisingly more evenly matched than I thought they'd be. That then dropped them down into the Europa League third round against AEK Athens, and they were able to really set things up there with a 6-4 aggregate victory to reach the playoff round of the Europa League. And you know what that means. It means they were guaranteed the big group somewhere. And they played Maccabi Haifa, and in a very weird turn of events, they actually won away from home by 2-0 and then lost the home leg by the exact same scoreline, and sadly were unable to get it over the line on penalties. So they would also drop down into the Conference League group, and they might think, oh, that's missed opportunities for both Hamrun and for Sweetie, but I think it actually was a blessing in disguise, because we'd now have 4 teams in the group stage of the Conference League, which I'm fairly certain, even during the MTK save, at any point, we never had 4 teams in the group of the Conference League. It's very hard for that to sort of permeate its way down like that. And I'd say it was for the best, because they all had much better chances at winning games down there and actually having progress. Yes, they miss out on a little bit of money for qualifying for the Europa League, but I think that mostly gets made up for if they win some games in the Conference League anyway. And this just gave us a great chance to really make some magic happen. And baby, wait for the magic, because my lord did they pop off. Sweetie 7th in the Europa League group. 4 wins, against, let me just see if I can show you, Pushkas Ike again, which is funny. Slavia Prague and Apollon Limassol got themselves a cheeky draw against the Dana Demirspor, 13 points. Gudja got 10 points, managed to get 3 wins against Zrinjski Mostar, Dinamo Batumi, and Sutjuska Niksic. Now, what I would say is Gudja got an incredibly easy set of games, so it does make sense that they got through there. Hamren had a slightly tougher set, but they still managed to beat Pushkas, FCSB, and Antwerp away from home as well, with a draw against Konyaspor in there, which actually, given how far Konyaspor finished down, that might be a chance for some missed points. The only real letdown was Birkirkara, who sadly managed to get a single result, which was a draw against Konyaspor. They clearly weren't on the level of the others, and as you saw from the league finish this season, that makes complete sense. Really, we'd have rather had Hibernian in here, but the fact is they got there, they got a point, they got some money, and maybe a little bit of reputation to go with it. But the key thing is we got 3 Maltese sides through to the knockouts of the Conference League in the same season, and Sweetie, of course, would get a bye to the round of 16 as well, and that meant there was more points, more money up for grabs for Malta. You can imagine our coefficient score this year is probably going to be quite high. And in those knockout playoff round games, it went pretty well. Gudja with a 2-0 victory away at Brunberg, and then Dnipro with a 1-1 draw against Hamren. Not a bad result for the away game. It then got even better as Hamren got the 2-0 victory against Dnipro. Gudja actually lost at home despite winning the away game. Maybe they rested some players, I don't know, but the point is they both progressed, and that would leave us 3 sides in the round of 16. This is where things got a bit squiffy, however, as Sweetie got a 1-1 draw against the Dana Demirspor. Not a bad result. They actually got the same result in the league phase. Hamren took a draw against CFR Cluj. You'll note Radiant's Ham scored a penalty there. He's one of the Patreon regens. And Gudja, sadly, though, losing 3-0 at home to Norrköping. Not a huge surprise. They're very good. But the second leg still produced fireworks, as Gudja did bow out here, but still took some coefficient with them. Hamren got a 1-1 draw in Romania, and as a result, were able to progress on penalties. Sweetie took a 1-1 draw in Malta, and also progressed on penalties with a 94th minute goal from Leandro was what took them there, and that would push them both through to the quarterfinals. Now, were they to both progress through their quarterfinal matchups, they would actually face each other in the Conference League semi-finals. Unfortunately, the first legs did not go super well. Nordsjælland with a 3-1 victory over Sweetie. Jeongdong-suk did give them a chance, but it was always a toughie. Slavia Prague, though, with only a 3-2 victory over Hamren, we felt there was still a chance. Like, a 2-goal deficit for Sweetie would be tough to turn around, but we've seen Hamren turn these around all the time, so we had hope. And the exact opposite of what we thought would happen, happened. Sweetie won 5-1 against Nordsjælland. 5 different goal scorers, all in the second half, absolutely annihilated the Danish side to progress through to the semis. Hamren managed to get the win, but then went out on penalties to Slavia Prague. So I guess best case scenario beyond them actually getting through was to at least get the result on the night for extra coefficient points. But literally, we were a penalty shootout away from having an all-Maltese Conference League semi-final. Sweetie, however, would then face Slavia Prague, of course, in the semi-final, a team that they looked slightly better than, honestly. And it very much proved to be, with a 4-1 victory in the home leg, giving them a great chance at reaching the final. Stuttgart and Marseille stuck at 2-2, and we watched the second leg live on stream, and they managed to get a 2-1 defeat in the Czech Republic. They did not play very well at all. If it wasn't for that early goal, it would have been Sweetie bum time, you might say, but it was enough, and it's going to be Marseille versus Sweetie United in the Conference League final. The first Maltese sides to reach a European final is actually not us. It's going to be Sweetie, because they're playing their match, of course, today on the 26th of May. Ours is later, so we're going to be doing both finals, full match, over on stream right now. Sweetie's one up first, followed by the main event, which is us against Manchester United. There is a huge opportunity for huge gains for Malta this year. I realise this video might be a bit longer because there's so much stuff to talk about, but what a year it's been. And even more so when you look at this. I'm just going to filter it by this. 18.1 coefficient points for Malta this year. We've gone past our best ever by nearly 5 full points. We were losing our best ever season, and we've replaced it with this. It's the dream. It really, really is. And actually, as a result of that, we've moved up to 10th in the coefficient provisionally. We've gone above Ukraine and Austria as a result of this by quite some margin now. We've pulled up a huge gap, and next year it's only going to get bigger when you look at the insane year that Ukraine are losing next season. It's actually kind of mental that they had such a good year. We've got a real chance to start closing in on some of the nations around us if we can keep the momentum going. So a lot of cool stuff going on today over on stream. Just general great vibes for the save overall, and it feels like it's really taking off to an insane level now. And just to add beautifulness to beautifulness, we have a youth intake that is worth talking about. What is this? Youth candidates. It's been rearranged slightly. So originally, this was the guy, Etienne Galea. He did apparently, allegedly, have 3.5-star PA. So that's a bit of a shame that it's dropped off. But he was the guy. We had a C-rated youth intake. Sorry, C-rated player in our inevitably half-star youth intake. But I don't think Etienne Galea is that bad. only 16 years old, not a bad player by any means, probably will end up getting Malta caps one day. He's probably not as good as Matthew Side, but he's still nice. So just a quick breakdown of the statistics for the season this year, because we've got a lot of stuff to talk about as well. Perez manages to grab himself 34 goals this year. He's been excellent, really. He's been really reliable when you needed him to. His average ratings have been superb. Quasi Aouar with 19 goals as well, 12 assists from that spot too. Padilla's been brilliant with 16 and 16 from that Trek role. That's the sort of season I wanted to see out of him. Nunez has still actually managed 10 goals this year. Not quite the levels he was at last year. You can see he's underperformed a little bit, but he's still been very useful. He's managed to get a couple of random PPMs from mentoring, given that he's not in a mentoring group, which is always great. One of them is useful, one of them less so, such is life. Zotello actually did a decent job off the bench as well. Just lots of goals throughout the team. As far as assists go, Lahovi, although admittedly playing in most of the league matches as a starter, does still bang another 16 assists for us this year, which in 17 starts is pretty damn good. Padilla as well with 16 in there. Vida with 15, Palacio 15. Krastev only gets 10 in the end. Now, Krastev played most of the second half of the season in place of Vida, but now he got a major injury in one of the, I think it was in the final game of the season, as we were just trying to keep the match fitness up. Luckily, Vida is back from his injury, but he's lacking a bit of match sharpness, so he's played a couple of friendlies in the build-up to the Champions League final, but he should be fit enough to actually start the Champions League final against Manchester United. It's just a question of whether he can put up a Vida-esque performance in that final. That's, I think, going to be the main issue there. That could be a bit of a weak point for us. All in all, squad-wise, a fantastic season. Given the other stuff we're going to talk about, we're going to skip the detailed attribute progression for this season because there hasn't been a lot of huge movement anywhere. There's only one player that I feel like has probably been a breakout this season, and that is Gert Gillet. Up to 3 stars now. He is starting to see some genuine movement in terms of his attributes now. His marking has gone up by 5. And his positioning up by 2. He's really got that defensive stuff sorted now. And honestly, I might even take him off of that soon and try to work on some other stuff while we've still got some PA to work with, frankly, because he's really, really developing now. And I think he is definitely, after a couple of years now, going to be the long-term successor to Tony Sunday. But I think in maybe 2 more years, I think he'll be potentially could even be verging on world class if he keeps developing at the same rate. Particularly when you look at the difference between his potential and his CA, it seems that there is still some stuff to work on there, although he is actually a little unhappy with training, despite what it's done for him this year. So, to the Malta national team, who now found themselves sitting in 148th spot. They have grown up a little bit this year, mostly just because they had a couple of friendlies. Beat Liechtenstein in a friendly there, had some World Cup qualifiers, didn't really go all that well. Did get that result against Greece, but I think I might have showed you that last. Actually, no, I'm not sure I did. Didn't have the best World Cup qualifying group, as you can see. Came bottom, but I think there's definitely room to grow. They've got a new manager as well. The old one wasn't even playing Vida, which is mental. So hopefully they can improve with the new coach. They've got Nations League coming up with Slovakia, Luxembourg and North Macedonia. That's going to be an interesting set of matches. I could see them getting some results in there, maybe. I don't know if they'd stay up. I think North Macedonia is the one they've got to really beat. But I also need to bring you this randomness as we were looking through the Maltese under 18 squad.
What? Am I missing something? A cute Among Us noise. One, he's called Peter. What? I'm so very baffled.
So yeah, just a random Gibraltarian dude who had no Maltese connections whatsoever was in the Maltese under 18 squad. Very, very strange indeed. So we believe the reason for it is because in FM24, there's a reuse of player IDs, and we think that a player that was in the Maltese under 18 squad or whatever, because he had no club or something, had retired. And when that Gibraltarian regen had come through, it had used the same ID. And because there wasn't another call-up yet for the Maltese under-18 squad, the game just dumped him straight into the under-18 squad because the IDs matched. But it's just very, very strange. And he was called Peter. Like, what more do you want out of a meme? So, to the loan farm. Yeah, minus 32, which, if my calculations are correct, means we're now at 226 players out on loan. I can only see it growing because we've managed to extend most of the guys that are out on loans contracts. As for whether we get the successful loan extensions, ask me after stream. That might be, that's going to take such a long time. Point being, we're in a good spot right now, and we have some very, very high potential. Oh, he's got 5-star potential now, does Miggy Torres. That's interesting. That's good to know as well, considering he plays a lot and was actually once considered our hot prospect. But check Diarra as well at Nashar. That's very intriguing indeed. Okay, cool. His loan doesn't expire for a while yet, but you can see that we've got a really nice batch of high-quality players out on loan right now. You might notice as well that there's some players that are actually quite decent potential-wise as well, but we just for some reason lose their reports, unfortunately. So you'll actually see some of these guys in here. There's at least a few of these guys that are pretty close to 5-star PA as well. People like El Kamaji, although I think at 23 he's probably not going to reach that anymore. Point being, it's really, really good. Zhong Dong Suk back on loan at Sweetie with 13 goals and 14 assists this year. This is the reason they've been so good. When you look at the best players, Sweetie have a lot of them. A lot of these unknown guys are all fantastic players, and I think it's really exciting for the future. If we can continue the loan farm conveyor belt this year, it's it's going to be really, really going somewhere. We want to sign a lot more fodder this year to try. I want to see if we can get the negative number to convert back into a positive number again, but we'd have to reach 256 loans for that. Probably a little unlikely in the meantime, but we really are going ham. We're nearly up to 300 players in the squad. I'm basically just making number go bigger at this point, but there's still a lot of quality there, and we're actually doing this for a purpose now. It isn't just about number go bigger. It's really having an impact, as you would have seen in Europe this year. It's making a huge impact. And with the increased rep of those clubs, the increased squad quality, it's just allowing us to snowball. Once you get a few guys starting to go on loan to these clubs, it just builds their squad up so much that you can start giving some two-star guys, even 2.5-star guys like Jean Dong-Suk was able to go back to Sweetie because of that snowballing effect. Now, on a financial standpoint, we've got 90 million. We've spent a lot of money this season on transfers, and yet because of our Champions League success, it's basically paid for everything. We're back to about the same amount of money we had last year, despite genuinely spending close to 33 million pounds this season and not basically selling any players for real money. And I think we'll end up with over 100 million in the bank after the Champions League final, no matter what happens, because even the loser prize money I think is over 10 million, plus the various other Champions League money you're going to get in there too. Do I think we're going to win the Champions League? No. But reaching the final is a real statement of intent from us, and I would really like to see if Sweetie could pull off the ultimate upset against Marseille. Imagine if we didn't win the first European trophy in this save. We're already not the first team to reach the final, technically. So our aim for next year is, well, we're not going to be able to beat the season that we've had this year. I just don't see a scenario where that's likely to happen, but if we could just be looking at a 13, 14-point season next year, that would give us a huge step towards catching up with the Netherlands and really gapping everybody underneath us. And that's the most important thing for us, to really start making this progress now. The players are joining that are good. We can get some more loans out. It feels like, it's almost like the save starts here. The fun bit can really begin. Not that it's not been fun up to this point, but now it's really starting to look like the snowball is happening, and I'm very excited to see what the future holds for this save. So join us over on stream for first the Sweetie final, full match of course, because we do the finals on full match, and then of course our final against Manchester United. It's going to be a bonanza of a stream, so you're not going to want to miss out on that as well. So yes, join us over on there. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new and want to catch up. I do have a lot of other stuff in the works. I've been working on about 4 videos at the same time, and I probably need to focus on one or the other. I've got an agent video coming up, as well as an agent guide as well, and some really weird stuff, including making a team play their football matches in space. So, yeah, see you guys soon. Hold your gun. Capybara. Bye-bye.